Welcome back to Short Royal Documentaries, the channel that takes you behind the scenes of the royal family's most iconic moments. Today, we're diving into the wedding of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, a day that captured the world's attention and set the stage for future royal weddings. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated on all things royals. Now, let's dig into the juicy details of this unforgettable event. On July 29, 1981, the world witnessed a wedding extravaganza as Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, tied the knot with Lady Diana Spencer at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. It was a spectacle watched by a staggering 750 million people in over 70 countries. Talk about pressure. Little did we know that despite all the pomp and circumstance, this marriage would eventually end in divorce. But hey, let's focus on the happy moments, shall we? Now let's dive into some fascinating facts about this iconic royal union. Prince Charles made history by marrying a bride without a royal title for the first time in over 300 years. Well, looks like the royal family decided to mix things up a bit. Lady Diana Spencer may not have been a princess, but she definitely brought some aristocratic flair to the table. Talk about breaking tradition. Now, here's a fact that could come straight out of a soap opera. The murder of Lord Mountbatten by the IRA actually played a role in bringing Charles and Diana closer together. Nothing like a tragic event to spark a whirlwind romance. Who needs a meet-cute when you have mourning and grieving to bring two people together, right? Picture this. Charles proposed to Diana on the 29th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's accession to the throne. Talk about a day loaded with royal significance. It seems Charles wanted to ensure that their engagement would forever be intertwined with the crown. And get this, Charles and Diana had seen each other just 13 times before he popped the question. That's right, folks, 13. Now, I'm no expert in love, but that sounds like a recipe for a whirlwind romance if I've ever heard one. But hey, it worked for them, sort of. Now let's move on to the dress that had the world buzzing. Diana's wedding gown was a showstopper, and it had its fair share of secrets. Diana's ivory silk taffeta and antique lace gown incorporated something old and something new. I guess they wanted to cover all their bases. It's like they were ticking off a wedding checklist while designing the dress. Something borrowed, anyone? Diana's waist size shrunk 5.5 inches during the engagement. Now, that's what I call dedication to fitting into that dress. Who needs a personal trainer when you have the stress of a royal wedding and relentless tabloid scrutiny? Yikes! A whopping 3,500 people were on the guest list, including political figures from around the world. Well, when you're the heir to the throne, I guess you have to invite everyone and their dog. Talk about a crowded wedding. Now, here's a juicy fact for you. Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman who would later become Charles's second wife, was actually a guest at the wedding. Awkward much? I can only imagine the tension in the air as Camilla sat there in her gray suit and matching pillbox hat, probably dreaming of a future where she'd be the one walking down that aisle. Oh, and let's not forget about the special chair that was custom-made for the King of Tonga. Apparently, this king was 6'5" and 350 pounds, so he needed a throne fit for a king. Can you imagine the logistics of fitting that chair into the cathedral? Talk about a royal headache. Now, get this. The King and Queen of Spain refused to attend the wedding because they didn't approve of Charles and Diana's honeymoon plans. I guess sailing from Gibraltar on the royal yacht Britannia didn't sit well with the Spanish royals. I mean, who needs a free cruise when you can start a royal feud, right? And here's an interesting tidbit. Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau attended the wedding ceremony alone, while his wife and children watched from a distance. Looks like their marriage wasn't exactly picture-perfect at the time. Nothing like a royal wedding to remind you of your own marital troubles. Let's move on to the extravagant wedding gifts that Charles and Diana received. Get ready for some jaw-dropping presents. Charles and Diana had a gift registry at the General Trading Company in London. Wow, they really had their priorities straight, didn't they? "We have 2 houses to fill," Diana famously said. "Gotta love their practical approach to gift-giving." Now brace yourselves for this one. Prince Charles received a ton of peat for his garden. Yes, you heard that right. Peat. Because what every prince needs is a whole ton of soil. I'm sure he was thrilled to have that in his backyard. Talk about a gift that keeps on giving. And speaking of gifts, more than 1,000 of them were displayed to the public at St. James's Palace in London. From priceless jewelry to, wait for it, a heart-shaped potato. I guess the school children who gave that gift wanted to make sure Charles and Diana never forgot their special day. Nothing says eternal love like a starchy vegetable. Lastly, we can't forget the official wedding gifts presented by the Commonwealth nations. Canada, always the overachiever, gave the royal couple a 4-poster bed made of curly maple wood. Because what's a marriage without a fancy bed, right? I hope it was comfortable enough for all those royal dreams. Charles had a strong hand in selecting the wedding music. In an interview prior to the wedding, he mentioned that he wanted something dramatic and noisy for Diana's walk down the aisle, ensuring that no one could hear any creaking ankles. Talk about attention to detail. He chose the hymn Let the Bright Seraphim by George Frederick Handel, beautifully sung by Kiri Te Kanawa of New Zealand. Now, here's an interesting fact. Diana decided to omit the promise to obey from the wedding vows. While previous royal brides, such as Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II, vowed to obey their husbands, Diana broke the tradition by requesting the removal of that word. Little did she know that she was setting a precedent for future royal brides. Even royalty can stumble over their vows. Diana mixed up Charles's first and middle names during the ceremony, vowing to marry Philip Charles Arthur George instead of Charles Philip Arthur George, and Charles, in turn, promised to endow Diana with thy goods instead of all my worldly goods. Well, I guess even a prince and princess can have their fair share of wedding jitters. Moving on to the reception, Diana had some concerns about curtsying to the Queen after the ceremony. With her wedding dress weighing a whopping 20 pounds, including 10,000 pearls, Diana wanted to ensure that her curtsy was flawless. She practiced it carefully in anticipation of the moment when she would curtsy to her mother-in-law and sovereign, accompanied by the majestic notes of Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance No. 4. Talk about royal elegance. The iconic Buckingham Palace balcony moment. Charles and Diana were the first royal couple to share a kiss on that balcony in front of the cheering crowds. It had become a tradition for newlywed royal couples to make an appearance there since Queen Victoria's daughter tied the knot with Crown Prince Frederick of Prussia. But Charles and Diana took it up a notch with that memorable balcony smooch. Now let's delve into the glamorous wedding reception. After the ceremony, Diana's bouquet was placed on the tomb of the unknown warrior in Westminster Abbey. This beautiful gesture paid homage to Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, who left her bouquet on the tomb when she married King George VI in 1923. And so, a new royal wedding tradition was born. Surprisingly, only 120 guests were invited to the wedding reception, which was hosted by the Queen herself at Buckingham Palace. Talk about an intimate gathering. It must have been an exclusive affair filled with close friends and family. And here's a fun fact. The menu at the reception included a dish named after the bride. Guests enjoyed a 4-course wedding breakfast, with one of the highlights being the Suprême de Volaille Princesse de Galles, which translates to Princess of Wales Chicken Supreme, a regal and delicious tribute to the newlywed princess. And there you have it, my fellow royal enthusiasts. We've journeyed through the fascinating facts surrounding the music, vows, and reception of Prince Charles and Princess Diana's iconic wedding. From Charles handpicking the stirring music to Diana's bold omission in her vows, and the intimate reception with its delightful menu and multiple towering cakes, this royal celebration was filled with memorable moments. Join us next time as we uncover more captivating stories from the world of royalty. Until then, keep your crowns polished and your curiosity alive. This is your host bidding you farewell. Stay regal, my friends.